Hello, I'm Annie Davey. I've been telling Bible stories to children for many years, and I've got some lovely ones to tell you from the New Testament in this section here. If you want to know about the background, where I got some of the background detail from, you can look it up on the web on truthortradition.com or www.korky.info, where we've written a book called Jesus, Faith and Fact. So it's all in there somewhere, but there's some interesting things here which you may not know. You may think you do know the stories, but wait and see. So let's see what we've got. Hello. This is one of the stories that happened as Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem for the last time. And he had to go through Jericho. Jericho is a big city and built by Herod the Great. Not the Herod that was there when Jesus was born, but I think it was his father. And he had 68 sons. I mean, he's one of those incredible people. But he decided he was going to rebuild Jericho. So nearby was a mound with the ruins of the old city. Some people still lived there. But he'd got this fantastic new city with white marble pavements and a camel park outside because their dung marks the pavements indelibly. They didn't want that in this beautiful new city. And it was called the City of Palms. And all around that area were balsam trees, and balsam is a herb, a sort of a fragrance, but when you bathe your sore eyes with it, it's supposed to be soothing for sore eyes. So there were probably quite a lot of people in the town who couldn't see. Just put your hands over your eyes for a minute. What's it like in there? Quite dark, isn't it? And you can't see things. What do you call somebody who can't see? I expect you know, don't you? We call them this word here. So there were quite a few people around who were blind. And nowadays, if people can't see, there are a lot of things available to help them. You can have a guide dog or a white cane or somebody to guide you, and you can learn to use a computer, and there are hearing books and all sorts of things that people can do. A friend of mine works for British Aerospace and he can't see a thing, but he uses his computer very efficiently. And in those days, if you were blind, that was it. You had no hope. No future. Every day, your family would have to lead you outside the city and sit you down in a place where people might see you. So let's sit this man down here, shall we? And he would have a special bowl and hope that somebody would put some money in. And his name was, let's see what his name was. Read it together. Bartimaeus. Now, Timaeus means a man of honour. So his dad was Mr. Timaeus, and Bar means son of. So his name was Honour Son. Blind Bartimaeus. And so he was sitting there one day, and then he could hear a lot of people coming. Let's have a look. Making 4 brushes today. Have a look. And so Bartimaeus was sitting there calling out to people, could you spare some money for a blind man? Please help me, please. Please spare some money. All day long, every day. It must have been awful. And then he heard this bigger crowd than usual of people coming and going. He said, what's going on? Why are you all here? And they said, oh, well, we think that this person's coming. That's why we're here. Who was coming? Jesus. And why would they be excited about Jesus coming? Well, because they knew that Jesus did amazing things and told them wonderful stories about God and explained to them that God actually loved them and wasn't angry with them, didn't like bad things that they do and think and say, but he wanted to love them and give them a fresh start. So Bartimaeus thought, oh, wow, I know about Jesus. I know he helps people. And as they began to get more excited and he could hear that a group of people were coming, he called out, Jesus, Son of David, have pity on me. And they said, oh, be quiet for goodness sake. He didn't want to bother with you, you blind beggar. And he said, Jesus, please, Lord, have mercy on me, Son of David, please. And Jesus heard him calling out, and he said to the crowd, bring him to me. So then they changed their tune. They said, oh, he's calling for you. Come on, we'll take you to him. And so he did a very unusual thing for a blind man. He left his cloak behind. Blind people don't leave things behind. They have to hang on to them the whole time, because otherwise they don't find them again, will they? Perhaps he thought something special was going to happen. So they brought him to Jesus, and Jesus asked him the most wonderful question. He said, how can I help you? What a lovely question. You know, once I was at church and somebody asked me what I was going to be doing the following week. And I said, well, I've actually got 17 school assemblies to do down near Sherborne, which is quite a lot. And she said, my goodness, that is a lot. Why don't I do some supper for you one evening? Wasn't that kind of her? She wanted to help. And it's a lovely question to ask somebody, how can I help you? And Jesus asked Bartimaeus, how can I help you? He might have been expecting Bartimaeus to say, well, you could give me some money. That's what the crowd thought he would ask for. But he didn't. He said, oh, Lord, if only I could see again. And Jesus said to him, open your eyes. And if you put your hands over your eyes again, and then take them away, imagine what it must have been like for Bartimaeus. Look at all the colours around you. Look at people's faces. Oh, how fantastic. And he must have been dancing around with glee because he could see. And he was so excited. And it was written down in Matthew's Gospel, Mark's Gospel and Luke's Gospel that all of them remembered the time that the blind man was made to see as Jesus was going through Jericho. It was so thrilling. And we know that Bartimaeus became one of Jesus' followers as Jesus went up to Jerusalem for the last time. And what happened there, I'll tell you another day. Now you might think that that's just a story from the Bible and it all happened 2,000 years ago. But in about probably 1986 or 7, my husband Corky was out in Nigeria. And in Nigeria they have got some good hospitals, but not everybody can afford to use them or get to them. And they have great big churches, huge churches. In Nigeria, Corky was invited to preach to a big church. They couldn't put a roof on them all because it was big as a football stadium or more. And you can see here there were thousands of people there, about 22,000 people. And the pastor, Dr. Samuel Abiara, had invited Corky to talk to them. And afterwards, he said, and now we're going to pray for people who want to be healed. So it'd be impossible for the pastor to pray for everybody who was there who might need healing. And so he said to them, put your hand on your chest and one on your head, and he would pray for them. And he prayed that the Holy Spirit of God would descend on them and would heal them from whatever was wrong. And afterwards, he said, now, if anybody has been healed, please come up to the front. We want you to stand on the platform and share what's happened. And many people did come forward. And one lady, the crowd were quite excited to see her because they knew that she had been blind from birth. And yet here she was walking forward confidently, and she went up onto the platform and she said, I can see. And her husband, she had never seen him before. And her children, she'd never seen them before. And so Dr. Abiara said to her, And can you see clearly? She said, no, people look a little bit like trees walking around. And he said, well, I'll pray for you again. So he prayed for her again, and her sight was a bit clearer, but not quite clear. And then he prayed for her again, and then the third time, her sight was crystal clear. And to make sure that she wasn't cheating, they actually put a tripwire across the steps down from the platform, that if somebody was pretending that they'd been healed and they hadn't, they would trip over. I think that's a dreadful thing to do, but that's what they did. And so Corky was standing quite close to her, and he saw the dawning realisation and the joy on her face as she began to realise she could see. And the amazing magic of being able to see, and never having been able to do so before. Well, you can imagine, can't you, the joy, and the congregation just erupted with praise and joy and excitement and banging their gongs and all sorts of exciting noises and things. But amazing things do happen today. And nearer home, my mum had cataract operation, and in one eye it worked well and the other eye it didn't go well at all, and she lost the sight in that eye. And a couple of months later I said to her, Mummy, don't like the look of your poorly eye, I think you need to go and see your eye man again. And so she did. And he agreed it did look a bit inflamed. He said, well, we'll do an eye test. They covered up one eye and they did the test. And then he said, not much point in covering up the other eye, but we will. And she could actually read the same letters with that eye. He said, oh, you're an actress, you've learnt the card. I'll change the card. She could still read. And he looked with his very long, they have those beautiful sharp lights, don't they? Clear lights to look in your eye. And he said, well, have you had a change of diet or a bang on the head or something? I've not seen anything like this before. She said, no, I haven't. Oh, but my church has started having a healing meeting every week on a Friday, and I've been going along to that. So he said, well, my dear, you're in receipt of healing. I've never seen anything like it. And both her eyes had recovered sight to the same level. And she was so thrilled. She felt as if God was saying to her, I love you, and you're my daughter, I'll take care of you. And as somebody who'd never known her father, that was a great joy to her, and to me as well, and our family. So don't give up hope. Always ask God to help in any and every situation. But thank you for listening, and God bless you today.